Rodmer Dyes, another disc dye video for you guys. Doing shaving cream today, and now the nice thing about shaving cream, among other things, is that it's super, super cheap. Doesn't make a huge mess, easy to use. I really like this style of dye. It makes a pretty unique pattern, so we're going to show you that. But to start with, we're going to make a mound, kind of just spray it in a circle like that and start to build it up so it's sort of mountainous. I mean, it's none of this really here is an exact science. You just kind of got to do your best. I like to use a little rubber spatula after that. Now, what we're going to be doing here with this rubber spatula is we need to make this pyramid-like almost. We want it to be pointier and not so much flat on top. So we're going to kind of smooth it out, and that's also going to take away a lot of the air bubbles, which are going to give us some problems. Obviously, air bubbles prohibit contact from the dye to the disc, so we want to avoid those. So just take our spatula, and I'm going to kind of spin the disc, or the ultimate disc that I use as a tray. It's going to kind of spin that, drag the spatula around, so we're going to smooth out the sides a little bit. Kind of hold the spatula in one spot and spin the ultimate disc as you go. Good way to do that. And then you just kind of cut off the top. Again, shaving cream, super cheap. Goes on sinks all the time, so I don't have any problem putting a bunch of shaving cream down my sink. Now then, we're going to start to smooth out the sides a little bit more. I'm barely putting any pressure on the shaving cream. We don't want to dig in. We just kind of want to smooth out the sides. So again, we're just going to kind of work it in a circular motion, putting very little weight on the spatula itself. You can get too much shaving cream on there, just rinse it off. I find it actually helps the spatula to be just a little bit wet, so don't shake off all the water after you rinse it off. You just kind of keep going around in a circle. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you get a bunch of it on top. You can kind of just cut that off like this. Whoop. Right down the sink. And then you just keep going. See, it's kind of starting to take shape. Now, I've heard that it is more important than you would think to have a smooth shape. And it makes sense. I mean, if you've got dye sticking to the ridges, then you're going to have big fat lines in your dye, and you don't want that. You want kind of even distribution of the dye powder as you go. Speaking of which, we're using ProChem dyes on this one. I have got a red, a pink, and a blue that I'm using, so I'll show you guys those in a little bit, but I like the powder dyes for this technique. Just straight powder right onto the shaving cream. A super easy technique. And it still looks really cool when it comes out. So take your time with this part. Make sure you kind of get a lot of those lines out, as many as you possibly can. The longer you take during this part, I think the more it'll pay off. Now, what you do want to do is you want to make sure it comes to a peak. Because the reason for that is when you go to apply the disc onto your shaving cream mound, you don't want a lot of surface contact immediately. You kind of want it to be a point right in the tip, and you kind of want the shaving cream to spread from there. If you get too flat of a center, then you'll end up having spots in the middle, more or less. Take some time, get rid of some of the excess if you want to, not necessary. You also want to make sure that your shaving cream mound is roughly, and it can be a little smaller, but roughly the circular area of the disc that you want to use. Obviously, mid-range is going to be a little bit bigger. Drivers and putters, you can get away with doing a little bit smaller. But it doesn't have to be bigger than the disc. When you set the disc on top of the shaving cream mound, it will actually push down into it. And over time, it takes about, I would say, a minimum of 2.5, 3 hours for this style. But the disc will melt itself more or less down into the shaving cream, and so you just you put it on top like that. You want to make sure you have a nice point. That's the first contact with the disc itself. When you're happy with your work, when you think you have a nice little point, Again, it doesn't have to be super perfect. Just do the best you can. When you've got what you like, you can take it to your workstation. And I've got a Radical Red from ProChem. I have got Bright Blue as well from ProChem, and Neon Royal Purple from a neon set from ProChem Dyes. I'm also using Neon Cerise Pink. I really love that pink. It's really bright, really vibrant. I really like that pink. The other pink in that set to me is more like a peach, like a light red. It's not super vibrant, but I like the Cerise Pink a lot better. Now for this technique, what you do is you're going to grab yourself some dye. Now this is how I do it. Everybody does it differently. You're welcome to use gloves if you want to, but I don't use gloves because I can wash my hands. Speaking of washing your hands, make sure you wash your hands before this. Get rid of all the oils on your skin. I'm quickly doing that. When you get back, make sure you bring yourself a paper towel back with you, because you're going to want your fingers to be very, very dry for this part. Very dry. The drier they are, the easier the powder will release from you. I'm just explaining here how you have an even sides coming up to a point. That's what you want. I was telling somebody else while I was doing this how to do this. So I just reach in, grab a little bit of it, and I salt bathe this shit. So we do some sprinkles. Now the higher up you drop it from, sorry my hand is blocking the camera, but you can kind of see what I'm doing. The higher up you drop it from, the more even of a spread there will be. So if you want bigger spots, drop it a little closer. If you want smaller streaks, drop it from a little bit more of a height. Now what I was trying to go for was blue, or like a dark blue to a purple in the middle of this, working its way out into a red and then a pink towards the edges. Kind of see I'm explaining that there. It kind of circles around. So we started with our dark in the center there. We're going to move on to the purple here, kind of sprinkle that around the darker blue. Just reach in, scoop in a little bit out of it. Now it is a little bit unpredictable, and it's never going to go exactly the way you want it to go. You can see some of the bigger drops there were not what I intended, but that's what you end up with, and that's the part of the beauty of these dyes. Not just these ones, but all the dyes. You try your best to do what you think is going to come out, and then sometimes it doesn't, but you know, that's what makes them originals. Every single disc dyed is original. Very important safety tip, make sure your dyes are always only one open at a time. Very, very important. You don't want somebody coming and kicking your table and knocking everything over. Minimize your damage here. You also probably shouldn't be wearing white shorts when you're doing this, but I'm not the smartest. We do what we can. And the tablecloth there is plastic. It's all good. My wife said I could use it. Next, we're going to move into the Radical Red. I'm going to sprinkle that in a circle around the outside of the purple. Kind of just working our way down to the base of the shaving cream mound here. Again, holding it a little bit higher. Gives it a little bit more of an even spread in the area that you're working with. You can see I'm kind of getting some little, I don't know, like dye pills almost. Like an old couch gets the pilling, or an old sweater. That's kind of what's happening to the dye in my fingers. Probably because I'm not using gloves. Again, you're absolutely welcome to make your own call on that. I've done it this way before, and you know, it works. And I don't think this looks too bad when it ends up. So, just explaining how you're going to set the disc down in the middle, and the disc is going to sink down into it and cause the shaving cream to press down and away, making smears across the surface of the disc. That's the pattern that we're going for here. Then we're going to dive into our pink. Wipe most of the dye off from my fingers. Grab some of that pink and get in there. Start sprinkling. Now once you have the amount of dye that you want on your shaving cream mound, it's very important to let the dye sit on that shaving cream mound to kind of absorb into the shaving cream a little bit. You don't want it to just be clumps on the surface of the shaving cream. So you want to let it sit there. I let this one set for 20 minutes, I want to say. And that's probably enough time. You can let it sit for as long as you want, but the shaving cream will eat your dye eventually, which means your disc won't come out as vibrant as you would have wanted it to. We're looking for a vast difference in the streaks with white in between them. That's why we don't let it sit for too long. We don't want it to be more blurry. We want kind of sharper contrasting lines between the colors. So I'm just going back through, tossing a little bit more blue in there. Now I forgot to video this next part, but I did go to a small video clip of after I did it. So what you're going to want to do on this one is you get your disc, make sure it's nice and washed off. I'm going to touch on that later. This is the biggest mistake I made with this disc. I didn't do a thorough job cleaning it. But you're going to wash off your disc. You're going to position it the center of the disc, facing down towards the top of your shaving cream mound. Lower it on and let the weight of the disc itself, you see, push down into the shaving cream. Make sure you do it evenly so it doesn't sink off to one side. You can see it's about the same amount coming off of each side. Get down, get a good view so you can see it. And this is what it looks like 3 hours later on its own weight. You don't have to put any weights on it. If you want to, you can. You don't have to. It'll sink down on its own. One thing I like about this style is as the shaving cream kind of works around the side, you can see it will also dye the side of the disc. So this works particularly well for putters with flat edges like this. But keep in mind, if you're doing a driver, it will probably come up and around the edge of your disc as well. And again, I don't have any problem here with rinsing a lot of the shower cream down into the drain. Just do it with nice hot water. There's our first look right there of this Berg. You can kind of see what I'm talking about already, the mistake I made with not cleaning it very well. Bergs have a concave surface, so you can see the circle around the edge right where it dips in, and that is completely my fault. I should have done a better job of cleaning, and I kind of got a little closer up here. You can see what I'm talking about. The design looks great. I'm really happy with the design. But around the edges, you can see the circular pattern around the edge where the dye didn't quite stick because I didn't clean it off very well. You can kind of see right inside the indentation. That's the problem I'm talking about right there. And it's perfectly circular all the way around. So with this one, I decided to redip. We're going to toss it in with some of the other pink that I was talking about earlier, see if we can fill in some of the white around the edge. I also wanted to put a little bit more into the spots in the middle where it's kind of white. I wanted just to put some more color on this one. And this is really, it's my fault. I'm still learning. This is only, I think, the third time I've done one of this style. But the first Berg I've ever done, and I'll be sure to clean that boy next time. And this is our final product. This is what we ended up with. I like the pink. I did fill in some around the edge a little bit better, but that's what you learn. That's what happens. You just go and you learn and you try and do better next time. So thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful time. Like and subscribe for more. Watch me grow and learn as we go. And if you want to see me outside of YouTube, I do have a Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/Robert. Come check us out for all things that are me. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.